Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Update. We've got some breaking news out of San Antonio, Texas.
They're putting a trim brake on Wonder Woman Golden Lasso coaster because it's going too fast during testing.
Yes, we've seen the first test runs of Wonder Woman, and everyone is saying how fast it is going through that course, Danny.
Well, hold it, Andy. Whoa. Hold on. I thought that all new steel coasters needed time to break in, and they run faster in warmer weather, and the magic. No, it's the wheels.
It's the wheels.
They switched the wheels for Wonder Woman and Twisted Timbers. Clearly, the magic wheels were sent to San Antonio and not to Doswell.
Or
that fixed before Media Day next week.
Or Fiesta Texas. You know how much they love enthusiasts. So they just said we're going to forego the bad wheels. And why even?
We're just going to go right to the good magic wheels.
Go right to the good magic wheels. You don't need to. Why screw around with the bad wheels? Just put the good wheels on.
It's like we need to speed up the process because we've already delayed this ride's opening twice. But
so I'm excited to see what people have to say in the comments this week after being lambasted over Twisted Timbers about how it's cold, how it needs to break in. So now I'm wondering what's going to happen. Is this thing going to have? Well, have a 20-second ride cycle up there?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. So, we're joking around here a little bit at the beginning because we like to have fun with you guys. But yes, we've seen the first round of videos coming from some Wonder Woman tests on Six Flags Fiesta Texas, and it's fast. It's very fast. And but yes.
What?
So when I saw this video, I was sitting at the hockey game tonight. I said, while I'm at the game, why don't you check it against the POV? Because to be fair, we did the same thing with Twisted Timbers, and we found that the Twisted Timbers test run was running about 5 seconds slower than the animated POV that we were given. This one is running about 2 seconds faster than the animated POV in real life, if you will. So, and these are some initial test runs. Now, it is a little bit warmer down in Texas. That's for sure. But at the end of the day, I mean, look, if folks know that I'm an engineer, I understand physics, and I understand how stuff like that comes into play as far as temperature and weight of the train goes, and the different wheel materials and everything. But we can talk about that all day long. But at the end of the day, this ride is going very fast compared to what people probably expected, but it's pretty close to what the POV is showing. But when you think about it, if it's 2 seconds faster than the POV and Twisted Timbers was 5 seconds slower, that to me says that there's like a 7-second delta discrepancy there. So I don't know if Twisted Timbers is running slower than expected, if this one's running faster than expected, if it's a little bit of both, or if the POV on Twisted Timbers was just sped up super fast at the end. Because as we pointed out earlier in the week, Twisted Timbers was kind of running right alongside the POV up until the last third of the ride or so, whereas this one seems to be pretty close and just gradually gets a little bit behind it as it goes. So, as far as the ride goes, if this is how it's going to run, once it opens to the public, hopefully before too much longer, it's going to be a good ride. It's going to be a fun ride, and it's going to have some good forces to it. This is good news as far as I'm concerned, that this ride seems to be running this well out of the box.
Well, I've got two major thoughts, and one going along with the POV, we said way back in August that you were going to need about a 35-second actual ride time, not including the lift hill, although they do have that new, we haven't seen the lift hill yet, because in this video they got it up halfway there or towards the top, and they had a bunch of guys push it over, which may account for the extra 2 seconds. I don't know, because it may disengage that lift hill at a different
point.
The
speed might be a little bit different coming off the lift.
Because it is coming off, when they pushed it, it is coming off that turnaround into that first drop with a little bit of speed. So maybe it's not going to have that, and maybe that makes up for the 2 seconds there. I don't know. I won't swear to that. I'm not going to die on that hill, whatever.
You're a history professor, not a physics professor.
Exactly. So, but I will say that we said that this ride was going to have about a 35-second ride cycle. We're here at about a 32-second ride cycle for it to hit the 1-minute intervals that we were, we did the math, and we said that a new train was going to have to dispatch every minute. Given how long that lift hill is, it's only 100 feet tall. Depending on how long that takes, this actually puts it right in that zone of hitting that interval. So then the question becomes, can they actually get the people on in the time? So it's not an issue of, because we saw in the fly arounds too, we timed it all out, especially with the Railblazer fly around. You could see where the trains were, how they moved through the track on the blocks, and then where the trains were dispatching at. So all of this matches what we kind of thought was going to happen here. My second point here is, it seems to me that the ground up RMCs run a lot faster than the Iron Horses do. When you look at rides like Goliath and Lightning Rod, and now these here, they all have immense amounts of speed. They all hit the brakes at a pretty nice clip. The only one that doesn't is Outlaw Run, because it does the corkscrew at the end. That burns off all the speed. You get rid of that corkscrew, and that thing's hitting the brakes very fast as well. It's going through those last few elements. So this is not surprising to me. It's not surprising that a ground-up RMC is hitting the brakes at a nice clip, which I like to see. We've been over this on the Twisted Timber shows. I like it when a ride hits the brakes with a nice, good speed, so you feel like you've done something. The elements look pretty good, like going through this, that, you're going to get some good airtime. The inversions look like they're done at a nice speed, that it's not going to be like a hang time coaster. It's going to be, you're going to feel like you're going through inversions here.
Well, and that goes back to a point that I've been making for quite some time, is the fact that steel coasters run different than wood coasters. And, Goliath and Lightning Rod, to a point, I mean, and the thing with RMC is, when they build the ground up coasters, they're able to design the entirety of the ride correctly. Whereas the wood coasters that they're iron horsing, they only have so much control over what the ride does, where it goes, and what the heights and speeds are of the different elements. And I think New Texas Giant is a very, very good example of that, because New Texas Giant was made taller by RMC, and then you get down to the ground much, much quicker on New Texas Giant, and they eliminated the helix that went around the lift hill, because, and I'm going to get into some wheel discussion here real quick, but when you think about it, wood coasters run steel wheels on steel track plates. And, you have a very hard material going up against a very hard material that is resistant to temperature change just from friction a bit more. Steel on steel doesn't tend to heat up as quickly because they're hard materials. There's not. Ron Toomer always said in one of his famous videos was, it's not hard to design a roller coaster. You figure out the elements, and you got to figure out what the your speeds and whatnot, and then you have to figure out what the losses are over the course of the track. When you have polyurethane or nylon or a softer material compared to steel running up against steel rails, that material heats up quicker. That's why we see the water misters on like I-305 and like the rides like Goliath at Six Flags Magic Mountain, because those materials heat up. And that's why those wheels, I dealt with it at Possessed. When the wheels heat up and have been used, they spider web. They shoot out the little silly string strands when the wheels wear out, because that's what happens when you're constantly heating up and cooling down, and that they wear out. Whereas the steel wheels, they don't run down to the hub. That they eventually just go bad. They break, or they just replace them after so many hours. Whatever. So you have a lot more frictional loss in these softer wheels. So when you turn what was always a wood coaster and try and do the same stuff as a steel coaster, your frictional losses are different. You're going to lose more speed inherently in the steel coaster, which is why you saw rides like Iron Rattler, New Texas Giant, and Steel Vengeance is a very good example, which is why you see them being taller than they were as wood coasters, because they have to be just to get to the ending. If we had New Texas Giant at its original height and still had everything else the same, New Texas Giant may not get to the brake run at the end because it loses too much more speed, and that's taking out some of the track. Iron Rattler, much shorter as a steel coaster than it ever was as a wood coaster. Now, Iron Rattler still goes into the brake run at a pretty good speed. Twisted Timbers,
but that's also because they cut off a significant amount of iron.
Yes, and that right there is a good reason why. You look at a ride like Wicked Cyclone. Wicked Cyclone, lengthwise, I think might actually be a little bit shorter than the original wood coaster, and towards the end does get pretty sluggish at the end. Storm Chaser, I don't know. I actually don't know what exactly, because I'm not too familiar with the Twisted Twins layout. I think maybe it's shorter. I don't know.
If I recall correctly, they basically followed someone did an overlay, and I forget who did it. Someone did an overlay of Storm Chaser and Twisted Twins. It basically follows the same exact layout.
Okay. And then when you look at like Steel Vengeance or like Twisted Colossus, Twisted Colossus goes in pretty quickly, but they cut off half the ride. Yeah. Steel Vengeance follows the same path as Mean Streak did, and it's, they raised it from 160 some feet to over 200 feet. So hopefully that extra 50 feet gives Steel Vengeance enough speed. We'll find out before too much longer here. But I mean, there are, good examples of, how it's not an apples to apples comparison when you're talking about the original wood coaster and the Iron Horse. So, this all ties back into your original point that when they're designing a steel coaster from the ground up, like they are here, they have the proper opportunity to design the lift hill or launch or whatever, and then the rest of the elements properly so that it has the amount of speed that they would expect it, which probably justifies why the actual test run and the animated POV are much closer in time, a second and a half, maybe 2 seconds difference compared to an Iron Horse ride that's not that big, like a Twisted Timbers that is 5 seconds off.
And, back to Wonder Woman itself, we also saw some pictures from Texas Thrill Seekers today that they did a tour underneath the ride, that they actually, toured the construction area. There's going to be a lot of water. The entranceway already looks really great with the Greek columns and the Wonder Woman sign. So I'm pretty excited about what Wonder Woman's going to be.
It felt very Georgia Scorcher to me, that sign entrance. It seems like they took the Georgia Scorcher entrance, from Six Flags Over Georgia there, and stuck the Wonder Woman logo on. It looks cool.
It looks cool, and I'm really excited to ride this ride. Now, do I think it's going to be like a new number one? No, I'm it's a 30-second ride. Ultimately, you have to gauge that. It looks like it has some great elements. I think it's going to be comparable, maybe, to the Megalights. A lot of people rave about the Megalights. They're a little bit longer than this, though. So
they got a little bit more to them here. I mean, this we're really looking at. It's
6 or 7 elements here.
Yeah, you've got the drop, you've got the the dive loop, then you've got the crossover hill, you've got the helix, you've got another drop, you've got the cutback corkscrew, another. You're probably looking about 8, 9 elements maybe, which we compared this to sort of like a Valraven, where in terms of number of elements, except for maybe the brake run, you've kind of got the same number of elements generally speaking here. So.
And I think this is a ride that has the ability to be cloned and be put in every park, and is going to be a crowd pleaser if the line doesn't get too long. And I think that's where this equation. I think it looks fine at like Fiesta Texas, maybe Kaga, but when you start talking about putting this other places, I think you have to be really careful. But I don't know for sure yet. Like it could magically work out and everyone's happy, and the moving station and the 3 trains, work perfectly, and and dispatch 8 people at a time, and the line moves at a nice pace, it could all work out. And
yeah, it's possible it could work out okay. I think if it worked out decently, I think that's about the best case scenario in terms of capacity for a park like Fiesta Texas or Great America. I think if you go to parks that are any bigger or more popular than that, I think is when you start to run into problems. I mean, we talked about this, many months ago. This is the type of ride that I feel like would be a better fit at like a Silverwood or something like that. And maybe they'll get one. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see. The ride looks like it's running pretty well, obviously, out of the box, which is a good sign. The only thing that caught my eye from some of the pictures we've seen now is that the only thing that I immediately disliked about this ride when we really talked about it, aside from the capacity, is the trains don't look nearly as cool as they did in the animation. And they didn't have the nose cone on, from what I saw, but the chrome bars and like the restraints, it just looks kind of clunky.
Well, I know you're also not a fan of the shoulder vests as well.
Yeah, I get that they're trying to do a different restraint system, and with how narrow the car is, maybe they're trying to do something different with like an over the shoulder, because I know a lot of people complained about the shin guards as well.
Well, it seems almost as if, because I saw a few pictures of the Railblazer cars. And I didn't look at them with a discerning eye, but it seemed almost as if they put a lot of the mechanisms on the back versus in the front, because the front, you're not going to have that space that you traditionally have for mechanics. So you have to find it in an area in the back of you to host all that stuff. Almost like almost like a stand-up B&M where it has all the mechanics in the back, but it still has stuff in the bottom too, but there's a whole lot in the back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at one of the Railblazer cars now, and I mean, there's a lot of mechanics and a lot of, different stuff that go along with these. I mean, the Railblazer ones almost look, to me, they look a little bit better, because like the bars in the front and everything, those are painted like the actual color of the train, whereas
they're
like
a little more stylized too.
Yeah, well, and at the end of the day, this Wonder Woman coaster, we're talking about how it was just going to have the big W on the front, and then it was just going to be like that. But the Railblazer car with like the ATV has like the headlight guards that are already like round bar, and the ATV already has round bar on it as part of what it's supposed to look like. So it almost blends in better, because the Wonder Woman train isn't trying to look like anything in particular, whereas the Railblazer cars are very much trying to look like something, which already have that kind of, style thing on it. So, that's a small detail, but it just caught my eye that the trains aren't, the most stylized trains we've seen. And we've seen RMC put out some beautiful trains before. The Twisted Timber ones look cool. The Twisted Cyclone ones have looked really cool. We haven't seen anything in the Steel Vengeance ones, I don't think, yet.
Just the side of it. We saw with the wood and
right. We haven't really seen a very good look at those yet, but RMC has always done really cool cars. The Railblazer ones even look cool, but the Wonder Woman one I'm not quite so hot on yet. But the ride looks like it's going to be good. The ride looks like it's going to be fun, and hopefully you and I will both get down to ride it, or at least one of the two Raptor coasters that are opening up this year. Maybe both. Who knows? But
things named Raptor can't be shit, basically. So I think this goes along with that theory again. This just goes to show you that Raptors are usually pretty decent. So.
Well, and look at where that
sometimes
logic
even number one.
Well, and look at where that logic has gotten you in life. So no, we're excited for Wonder Woman. Glad that it's finally testing. So hopefully that means opening isn't too far off, and Railblazer, I'm sure, will be right behind it. So hopefully, but
it can't be first. It has to be second.
Can't be first.
Can't be first. It has to be
first.
Second.
So hopefully things continue to progress smoothly, and we'll have people on there before we know it.
So, as always, thank you for joining us here. We'll keep you updated with hopefully the opening of all these great new rides later this month. I'm, of course, Adrian Barczyk from Chicago, Illinois.
Danny Miller from Binghamton, New York.
As always, Ride On, Ride Warriors.
See you guys.